Above all things, I dream of freedom. Now, I'm not just talking about freedom for me or freedom for you. I'm not talking about American freedom or Canadian freedom, European freedom or African freedom. I'm talking about a freedom that transcends the borders that we have created for ourselves. I'm talking about freedom for every child, woman, and man on the face of this planet that we call home. I'm a freedom activist. And for the next little bit, I invite you on a great adventure with me. When I was a kid, I was fascinated by superheroes. I mean, honestly, who wasn't? All of us at one time or another sat on the floor in front of the television watching Superman, Batman, and unfortunately even Aquaman save the day. I mean, they are part of our story. They're part of our lives. They taught us good versus evil. They taught us right versus wrong. Superheroes are a part of our story. But unfortunately, superheroes have also ruined a small part of us. Superheroes have absolved us of responsibility. They've taught us somehow that you have to be different or unique. They taught us that you have to be special or come from a faraway land. They taught us that you have to be muscular or wear spandex, a lot of spandex, if you want to make a difference. And I'm here to challenge that paradigm, not just the whole muscles and spandex thing, but the whole superhero paradigm in general. You don't have to be different or unique. You don't have to come from a faraway place. You don't have to fear kryptonite. You can make a difference if you choose. Every single day, we're given the opportunity to be a hero. It's just up to us whether or not we're going to step up. I was given the opportunity to be a hero once, and I failed. I failed miserably. I watched as a little girl got sold, and I did nothing to stop it. My hero moment passed, and I failed. Years ago, I was given the opportunity to travel to Cuba on an educational research trip. I was there to report on their industrial capacity for education. I'm a high school shop teacher. Now, the trip was amazing. It was a wonderful opportunity, but it always felt scripted. We always appeared. We were always led around. And I felt like something was missing, and that most likely that something involved a lot of beer. To explore this possibility, some friends and I went out one night. We got away from our group that was traveling around, and we went into the slums of Havana, Cuba. That's when I saw her. I didn't know anything about her. Didn't know where she came from. I didn't know who she was. But I watched as she was sold. She couldn't have been more than 12 or 13. She looked at me. Her eyes made contact, and I didn't understand. I'm still trying to understand the look that she gave me. I watched the money change hands, and I watched her carted off. I watched as a little girl was sold for sex in Cuba. It profoundly affected me. I did nothing. I stood by and watched. That was my superhero moment, and it passed. I could have intervened. I could have fought. I could have said stop. I could have done anything, but I didn't. I watched. I came back to the United States shortly after that, and everybody said, "Oh, how was Cuba?" I said, man, I saw a little kid get sold. And they said, yeah, that's rough. You know, it happens, but how was the food? And I said, I saw a little kid get sold. And they said, yeah, developing countries. How was the dancing? And they weren't listening. I said, I saw a little kid get sold, and they weren't paying attention. So I freaked out. I ran. And when I say ran, I really ran. 4 months later, I wound up in Kathmandu, Nepal. I tried to live a normal life, but I couldn't. I couldn't be here any longer. So I went there. I thought that I was running away from the problem, but I wound up running towards the problem. I hooked up with an organization that worked to care for children rescued from the Kamlari system. It's a form of indigenous slavery of Western Nepal. I basically volunteered at an orphanage long term. My daily roles and responsibility was to act as a friend and a tutor to a bunch of little girls who had been rescued from the slave trade. My daily responsibilities included, but were not limited to, being decorated with butterflies and flowers, having my beard braided on a daily basis, and making horrible errors in judgment pertaining to water buffaloes to make little girls laugh. I appreciate that. But as one adventure came to an end, another one began. Sooner or later, I had to leave Nepal, and I had to come home. My friend there complimented me on the job that I did with the children. He said, I want you to imagine all the children you haven't had a chance to work with. And that word really stuck with me. Imagine. It's a long way home from Kathmandu, Nepal. I came back home to Cleveland, where I live, where you live. And that word imagine kept on bouncing around inside my head. I realized that I had a second chance to become a hero. I could redeem myself. So I engaged in two things. Number one, I began the Imagine Foundation. It's a small nonprofit dedicated to ending child slavery worldwide, starting right here in Cleveland, Ohio. You might say, why Cleveland, Ohio? But honestly, we're actually a really special group of people. We never give up, and we're always the underdogs. We've been taught to overcome things. The Imagine Foundation, as well-meaning as it is a drop in the bucket if we can get Cleveland to start to take action on this issue. Now, while I was getting the Imagine Foundation running, I also recognized that I needed to learn. I didn't know anywhere near the amount of stuff that I needed to know. So I applied for and miraculously got accepted to a doctoral program here at Cleveland State, where I could study the systems and processes of human trafficking as a science. Cleveland State has meant absolutely everything to me during this journey, and I sincerely appreciate being part of its family. Now, one of the things that I learned during my time here at Cleveland State was that the Civil War didn't end slavery. The Civil War only made slavery illegal. Now, let's talk a little bit more in depth about this. In the 1860 census, the U.S. Census identified that there was roughly 4 million people in bondage in this country. Now, we all learned in middle school the atrocities of antebellum slavery, the whips, the chains, the songs, the greed. That was 4 million people, and every single one of us learned about that. Flash forward to today. Modern-day human trafficking. It's estimated that up to 27 million people worldwide are in one of the forms of exploitation known as human trafficking. That's 1 out of every 400 people on the planet. 27 million people. That's a really, really big number. Now, most likely, you equate human trafficking with sex trafficking, and rightly so. But you have to know that the rest of my talk isn't going to address sex trafficking whatsoever. Even though sex trafficking occupies the headlines, we talk about it, it represents a very small overall percentage of exploitation. What I'm going to address is forced labor, because even if you don't participate in the form of exploitation known as sex trafficking, you most assuredly participate in the form of exploitation known as forced labor. It affects the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, and the gadgets that we play with. Every dollar that we spend is part of a system that exploits people around the planet. Now, a few minutes ago, I mentioned that I'm studying for my PhD. And if you've never been involved in grad school before, it involves a whole heck of a lot of reading, a tremendous amount of reading. Now, during one of these marathon reading sessions, the movie Jurassic Park was playing in the background. It's a great movie, a 1993 classic. In one of the scenes, Jeff Goldblum rolls out the math of chaos. He actually takes a droplet of water and puts it on Laura Dern's wrist, and it rolls off to the right. He does this great monologue, puts the second drop of water on her wrist, and it rolls off in a radically different way. That's the math of chaos. Small changes, seemingly small, insignificant changes, magnify exponentially. That movie really convinced me about things. Moments ago, you heard about human trafficking, and you probably thought, we need to pass laws, call out the National Guard, let's protest in the streets. But those are big changes, and realistically, we're not going to do that. Jeff Goldblum taught me about small changes in that movie. Small changes magnify exponentially. Let's talk about some real-life small changes. When a warm August day in 2003 came about, our power grid was primed for change on a massive scale. People around the country just turned up their AC a couple of degrees. Hundreds of thousands of small changes, just a couple of degrees. Those couple of degrees times several hundred thousand caused increased voltage to go through the power lines. That caused the power lines to sag. And those power lines outside of Cleveland touched a stick. Now let's just talk about our power grid for a second. One of the most complicated things humankind has ever thought of, safeguard after safeguard, fail-safe after fail-safe, was brought down by you adjusting your AC and a stick. That is the power of small changes. Small changes magnify, and they can turn into huge results. I'm here to sell you on an idea of small changes. Ending forced labor is a non-issue. We want to do it, but the question is, how do we do it? Small changes will help to end forced labor. I'm here to sell you on an idea of boycott. You're probably familiar with the term boycott. Boycott is avoiding something. I actually want to encourage you to do the exact opposite, to start buying stuff, but buying the right stuff. I'm going to encourage you to purchase ethical items, ethically made items. Because when you purchase ethically made items, that creates a demand for more ethically created items. And then there is an answer to the system. They go, okay, the system, okay, they want ethically made items. Let's give them ethically made items. Forced labor falls. The boycott is you making small changes to your consumer tendencies to buy correctly. Okay, so you're sold already, but how do you participate in the boycott? There's thousands of ways. You can plant a freedom garden. You can purchase used diamonds. You can invest ethically. You can buy ethically sourced makeup. You can eat local. You can read the list of goods made by child and forced labor. You can check out California Transparencies and Supply Chains Act. There are hundreds of ways to participate in the boycott, and it's growing every single day. And as more people participate in the boycott, there are more products made ethically, and the system answers the demand. That's how small changes work. You buy something ethical, more ethical products are made. Small changes. Boycott will create the demand. Participate in it. Years ago, I failed a small girl because I didn't understand what heroes were. Heroes aren't the people who wear capes. Heroes don't swoop in and fly. Heroes are the people who wake up every day and live for freedom. Heroes are the people who ensure that the toys that they purchase for children are not made by children. Heroes are the people who wake up every single day to cause small disturbances, small little changes to affect the overall system. Now, I hope that I've sold you on the idea of the boycott. If you choose to purchase ethically, that's an amazing choice. I also want to stress, if it makes you feel like an absolute superhero, you can wear spandex while you do it. Just, thank you. I ask you, if you do that, make it fair trade, ethically produced spandex. Together we can change the world if we take action. You just have to do that. Heroes wake up every day and they don't talk about freedom. Heroes wake up every day and they live for freedom. I'll leave you with one line. Imagine what's possible if we just try. Thank you.